This week on the No More Late Fees podcast, Jackie and I are joined by actor, rapper, writer, director, composer, and producer GQ. You probably remember GQ from his roles in the movies Drumline, On the Line, and What's the Worst That Can Happen, as well as TV shows like Chicago PD, Numb3rs, and Jonny Zero.
So, that era is like a time capsule from that only those of us who knew that time will truly understand or remember. I mean, going to Blockbuster Video was an adventure. It was fun. It was like I was excited about the nights where I knew I could walk there. I was walking my two miniature pinchers, Biggie and Lil' Kim, when I lived in Los Angeles.
So cute.
I lived in at the time that y'all were talking about being there is when I was living between New York and LA, and I had a Blockbuster in each place that was 4 blocks from my apartment in either city. And so I'd be walking my dogs and we'd go there, and like there was something, so it was like being a kid in a candy store. Like, what am I gonna pick out? Like, I hope I get something good. And like
exactly,
and seeing the signs with like Danielle recommends blah blah blah, and like Jackie's choice this week. And it was a community of like fun, nerdy, like movie geeks and just kids from the hood who just worked there. And like it was just like, it was a cool mix of people who worked there. And also like the movie culture at that time, because it wasn't all digital, was like, it was like going to a library, but like way more fun for me. And where I was at that point in my career, like I just remembered last night thinking about the fact that I was going to be on with you two. I was like, let me put myself back in the days of Blockbuster. And I was like, I remember one time when I was living in Venice Beach, and I walked to the Blockbuster at Ocean Park and Lincoln, and I saw 5 movies on the shelves that I was in. Like,
That's so cool.
I was like, well, what the heck? I just remember that because it wasn't it wasn't something I held on to. I just remember that experience being like, whoa, like that's a trip. Like I just recognized it. And I also got a kick out of the fact that at that time I wasn't super recognizable on the street, but at Blockbuster, like I was recognizable. So it was always fun to see the look on the employees' faces when I walked up to the counter with like, some random like movie that I was studying so that I could audition better for something else. Like it was really a cool time.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. I would have probably been way less humble than you. I would have been just like posing next to the movies I was in. So.
Oh yeah, like I walk up with my own. I grab all 5 movies that I'm in and walk up to the register. Yeah, let me just get those out. No, I hope I never rented my own movie from Blockbuster.
It's funny because you've actually lived on both coasts, because I'm from New York and Jackie's from California, but we didn't meet until we moved to Florida as children. So
oh wow,
both of those places hold special places in our hearts. But I know you're from Chicago, so
yeah, born and raised in Chicago.
But are you there now, or are you still in LA?
I'm between Chicago and LA, but I've been mostly in Chicago for the past couple of years. So yeah.
I went to Chicago for the first time 2018, I think. And so I'm a New Yorker. So I was like, okay, let's see what everyone's talking about. Yeah. Chicago this. I went and tried the pizza. I was a horrible person and was like, this is casserole. This is not New York pizza. My friends were like, you're such a hater. I was like, I have to say something. I can't like this place, but it's so clean. It's so clean in the heart of like where the tourists go. I understand there's like so much more out there. It's like, this is just a rent-a-cop version of New York. I was hating the whole time, but I did have a lot of fun. The food was delicious. It was genuinely very nice experience. I think I'll definitely go back for sure.
Yeah. That's a pretty common reaction from my New York friends too. It's like if they stay long enough for me and my brothers and stuff to take them out to real places, like outside of where, like the Chicago pizza in and of itself, when you say that, I'm like, yeah, totally. Like that's not pizza. It's like a block of cheese shaped like a pie. Like that, if you're from Chicago, like that's not Chicago pizza. Like the best pizza in Chicago is actually thin crust and it's cornmeal dusted and it has a braided crust around the edges and it's like super old school, and there's only a few places in Chicago where I even know to get it. And the best version of it is at a corner bar on a side street in a neighborhood tucked away that no one would ever go near. So like the next time you come through, let me take you for some real Chicago.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. So I was about to say, GQ, why didn't you tell me before I went and had that casserole? I was very upset.
It's cut in squares, little rectangles and squares. That's like the thin crust that's cut in rectangles that's when you know you're really in Chicago.
That's awesome. We just dove right in, and I'm not mad at it. So we're gonna keep going. I think for me, what was the most exciting was the fact that when Drumline came, it was my freshman year at Florida A&M, which is an HBCU.
Wow.
So, and like a good portion of the players were from my college at that time. So it was just like an experience. We all went to the movie theater. We knew people in the movie. So that was really fun.
Yeah, that movie was incredible, and the culture was incredible, and the fact that I got to live in Atlanta for 3 months and have the leaders of that culture take me under their wing and show me not only how to drum and march, but to show me their lives and their homes and their entire culture. Like, it was beyond anything imaginable, and it changed my life. And I'm still close with some of those people today. And if I ever go traveling through certain areas on the East Coast, I know I have family there. It was amazing. And I really did learn how to use the bass drum, and my hands were bloody, and I got there 2 weeks before we shot. So I had a lot of work to do in a very short period of time, because I didn't have a double, because I wasn't the featured drummer in any way. So they were like, we're going to just let you do your thing. And that turned out to be how I developed such a relationship with a lot of these young men and women at the time who I became close with.
That's so cool. So you never played the drum prior to the movie?
No, my little brother did growing up. I mean, he's a drummer. And so he gave me a little bit, some tips and stuff, but I'm musical. So I had and this is often when people are like, you're the guy at Drumline who had no rhythm. I'm like, yeah, that's called acting. That's called acting, motherfucker. I had rhythm. I had to go through tests to get the role. They brought in a drumming coach to watch me do stuff in the room and be like, oh yeah, he's got it. That kind of shit had to happen. Then they had to and they didn't tell me when they were shooting that they were gonna in that scene where he's like, you river dancing with your drum, and they show me from the back doing the dance move. If you mute it, I'm completely on rhythm, but they moved the beat over so it looked like I wasn't. They never told me they were going to do that shit.
But see, logically, you have to assume that you had rhythm, because you couldn't pretend. You can't pretend those things when you finally, your character finally got it. You can't pretend to have rhythm. I've seen it been a ton of people try it. It cannot be. You can't pretend.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that character would have never made it on the Drumline.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was a little flaw in the movie in a way, because they never talk about it. The flaw that I'm now realizing is it's never talked about in the movie, oh, you don't have rhythm. It was about a style thing. When he says, you got to love your drum, all those lines have nothing to do with rhythm. No. But what I'm now thinking, to the director, Charles Stone, I'm like, Charles Stone the third. Why did you make the choice to slide the music off so that I looked so it looked like that was the issue? Because that kind of cheapens the interaction and the whole issue about what that was, which is basically this kid loves Black culture. He grew up down the block. He feels like he's being discriminated against, and the fact is he's not. He actually just has to learn to stop thinking about it and to feel more, which is a common thing about Black versus white culture, if you're going to be unpolitically correct about it and just say
we're never politically correct. I don't know.
Never.
It's the same thing in White Men Can't Jump, where he's just like, but do you hear, like you listen to Jimmy, but do you hear Jimmy? Like they're all saying the same thing. Like, all right, yeah, okay, maybe you have rhythm, but are you letting it just go through you instead of like trying to be on top of it, right?
Right.
Was that your first time experiencing an HBCU? And if for our listeners, I think we've talked about this a few times, but it's a historically Black college or university. Was that your first experience with an HBCU?
Yeah. Like growing up, I'd heard about Spelman and Morehouse, but that's as far as my knowledge or even awareness went. So yeah, that was like my first experience for real was a complete immersion, which is what I was referring to in the earlier part of our conversation when I talked about the gift of it all.
Well, I think if you haven't experienced a homecoming yet, then that needs to be added to your list. If I ever go, I probably will after all of this, I will tell you, because homecoming is a whole nother experience. It's like one of the best things ever. You have all these people people who went 50, 60 years ago coming back. You have newbies, you have people who just graduated, they all come back home, and the band plays amazing, and they feature different time periods. You see some of the old heads come back, put on their drums, and they are moving like they did 20 years ago. It is an amazing experience.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna call some of my homies in Atlanta and be like, yo, tell me when homecoming is.
Exactly.
It is an experience. I have yet to bring Jackie. I need to. I think she would absolutely love it. It is such an amazing experience.
I will not have rhythm. I'll try real hard, but that is not my strong suit.
Yeah,
I still love you. I still will dance like no one's watching with you. No worries.
Nice. Everyone is welcome.
Yes.
So when did you get the acting bug? Because I know you went to NYU and you went to Tisch. I mean, that is, am I correct, right? Yeah. That is such a difficult program to get into. And how did all of this come about for you with acting?
I didn't start until later in life, and I was always a sports head. Like I wanted to be, especially basketball. Basketball was my thing. Growing up, I played basketball every day of my life, and even through the winter time, and I would be chipping ice off of the driveway at my house in Chicago to be able to play on our little rinky-dink hoop in the driveway. But as everyone grew, and I only grew so much, that didn't really become an option in later in life for sports. So I ended up playing lacrosse in high school. And it wasn't until my senior year in high school, I went to an all-male Jesuit Catholic college preparatory high school outside of Chicago. And it was an incredible school for a lot of reasons. It had its limitations as well, but one of the limitations for me was that it was an all-male school, and I was trying to meet girls my senior year. So I got 5 of my guy friends who had never acted before. None of us had. And I was like, guys, and I quit the lacrosse team. I was supposed to be a captain, and I just didn't play my senior year. I wanted to have fun, and I was like inspired. And I was like, you guys, you're coming with me. We're all going to go audition for the musical down the block at the all-girls school at Marillac High School. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, dude, it's senior year. Like, we don't play football. We need to meet girls. And they were like, all right, let's go. And all of us got in, and I got the part of the Scarecrow in The Wiz. And that was Michael Jackson's role. And I had so much fun. And I won Best Actor in a Musical that year, and I'd never acted before, and so I went on. That was already my senior year, so I was already going to Bates College in Lewiston, Maine, to study anthropology and Spanish, and I couldn't keep up with anthropology, the reading load, and so I had to switch my major. And at the same time, I saw a sign up for a spring main stage show, and I was like, why don't I try this again? What the heck? And I auditioned. And I got a lead role in that show. And then I was like, I'm going to switch my major to acting. And I did that. And within 1 year, I took pretty much every acting class I wanted to at Bates, and realized I don't have much more to do here. If I'm going to continue this seriously, I got to I got to think about an acting conservatory and conservatory training. And I had a girlfriend at the time who lived in Jersey, and I went to visit her family during our like October break, and I saw that auditions were being held at Tisch School of the Arts at NYU, and I went. This is, you know, before everything digital, so like I don't even remember how I figured out how to get to this school and how to audition, but I did, and I transferred into the experimental theater wing for my final 2 years of college, and I was able to transfer all my credits, and like, so it was only my last 2 years of college that I ended up in a program like that. And yes, it was intense, but it was the best 2 years of school I had in my life. Like I was a fan of the culture and the community that I found through school, but I was never a fan of school. I learned differently, I read differently, and the system at the time did not support the way that I learn. Nowadays it does. And I found out that you're protected and that you can take things untimed and get extra time on stuff. But, you know, I didn't have the terminology for my diagnosis growing up of like how my brain functioned. And so what I realized only recently was that acting became an escape route for me from a system in which I felt entrapped. And that, like, I never set out to be an actor. I never was like growing up like, I want to do that. I want to be like on camera. I want to be in front of people. Like, I'm being in front of people. It's not something I really am afraid of, but it's never been my comfort zone. Like I don't like being self-conscious, and like basically acting for me became an exercise in mastering my self-consciousness and being able to like manipulate it to the point of like awareness where I could seem natural while the camera was on. And like, I became really good at that, but I think it caused me a lot of anxiety and stress. And I've found that very much recovered from a lot of that trauma, but it did traumatize me in a lot of it. So like, I haven't done anything on camera and only a few things on stage, like in the last like 5 years. And I think part of that is I'm realizing in my age and my experience that like, oh, I'm not sure that was something I wanted to do. It's what I thought I should do because I was good at it and I was getting opportunities that a lot of people would die for. And I was like, oh, I have to take it. And like people around me were like, this is amazing. You're a star. You're meant to do this. And like, and because of that, didn't want to let anybody down. And through different forms of not so traditional therapy, I've found that was like a huge part of why I did it. It wasn't really for myself. It was because I didn't want to let anybody down.
Yeah.
Right.
I think because of the panini, we're all collectively having breakthroughs in what we want to do, what our heart's desire is, versus what we either have been conditioned to feel like we need to do. And I think it's been a wonderful experience, and for me personally, but just to watch other people be able to embrace saying no and really going after things that bring them joy. If we learned anything, we only have this life right now, and why spend it so miserable when we don't really have to? It's very freeing. So I give you props for, you know, not only acknowledging it, but going down the path with it, because sometimes we know it, but we are still scared and we're in fear. So that's wonderful.
Well said. That's really on point. I appreciate that.
Do you feel the same way about music?
Music is, I kind of feel the same way about rap, but music is what I realize is my deepest love outside of my love for our source and for family. Like, music is what keeps me more connected to the source of peace that I find in this life. And in a similar way, the reason I say rap, like, is like, as in the same way that I was like, okay, you're an actor, you got to do this. Like, I was also like, experienced that with like, okay, you're a rapper, you got to do this. And that was more of my own choice, but it was also because it felt like it was the only option in music for me. And it was the first music that I ever listened to and got down with. And from the time that I was like 5 years old, and hip hop culture is definitely the music culture that I was born into, and the first music that me and my brothers embraced. And so it definitely like shaped a lot of who I am, and it still does, but I don't feel the need to do it anymore outside of this one group. Like, so my brother and I created a company, and this is all simultaneous. This is all like from the time I went to Tisch and beyond, while I was making movies and TV and all that. Like, I was also the founder and creative director of a theater company called Q Brothers, and me and my brother JQ put it together, and it involves other friends, cohorts, homies, brothers of ours, family of ours. And what we do is we started out taking Shakespeare and reinterpreting it through a hip hop lens and rewriting, and more than adapting, we call it ad-rapting. Like, and so we started doing that and turning Shakespeare into hip hop musicals that we toured the whole world with. And so, yeah, it was really cool. And we started off Broadway back in like 99, 2000, and we still are doing it and on different levels to this day. So that is always there, but that's bled into like creating hip hop musicals in honor, like 12-minute musical in honor of a CEO of a major corporation, that, I mean, like insular industrial type things, or like like teaching sales reps how to sell their new product through big pharma, but in the form of a rap that like hopefully no one will ever see. Like, and so like we're doing stuff like that, but then we're also like Q Brothers, we created a hip hop, a family friend album of hip hop music called Buggin' that anyone out there can see on any streaming platform. We created something called the Feel Good Album of the Year, that we wanted to make real hip hop that you could play with the whole family around at a barbecue, and the language would allow for that. So like when we did that almost 20 years ago, then like someone at Lollapalooza heard it, and then they were like, hey, we have a family friendly stage, like, would you guys do some of that here? And and then it ended up like we did that stage. We've been playing Lollapalooza for over 15 years, and Austin City Limits, and so it just kind of like it spread out in all these different forms. And so I still am so attached to, like I said, I was born into hip hop culture. That's never going to leave me. But as far as like a more conscious involvement in music, or actually what is just, I should say, has called me to dive into it, as electronic music. And I've had some experiences overseas with some friends in Europe who took me to some raves, and then I like explored rave culture in Los Angeles and in Chicago, and I feel deeply connected to it. And I also feel like, and I started producing electronic music like probably like 8 years ago or so, and have gotten more committed to it in the past 5 years. And in the past 3 years, my brother Jay and I have started producing some stuff together, and we find that it's like nothing brings us more joy than that kind of creation right now. And it's like I keep coming back to this number of like when I was 12, like I recently put a basketball court in my yard, and I've been playing like just running drills on my own, which is what I did when I was like 12. And like I'm the way I feel about when I create electronic music, which is like I'll do it for like 12 to 14-hour chunks at a time, where I don't even realize that it's dark out now, and like what I've been doing and for how long. And the only time I've ever felt like that I can remember feeling like that was when I played basketball like all day and night when I was young, when I had like days off, and that kind of the meditative state that it put me in, and the transcendental like place that it brings me to is, something that I'm just like, I'm committed to, but I also feel like I don't have a choice about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I am with music.
Well, we 100% understand. I mean,
Yes.
If you probably said this to us maybe 2 years ago, we probably would have been like, that's cool, but we wouldn't have been able to like connect and feel that way. But doing the podcast, or just being able to have a creative outlet to connect with each other, you could be friends for this long, but doesn't necessarily mean that. I think we wanted to move past it just being like we have a bunch of memories, but being able to kind of grow the relationship as we get older, which can be work sometimes, like you have to have dedication to that. But being able to do the podcast has brought new passions for us. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for Jackie, but I don't know, Jack, you think the same?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was a teacher during the pandemic. And so we started this April of last year, and it was something that like I finally could look forward to, because being a teacher was so heavy. I was a special needs teacher, didn't have great support, and then finally decided to transition out of teaching because that home life balance just wasn't there. It was all work all the time. And so I think the podcast even was helped me cope with the fact that like I was very passionate about teaching, but I was recognizing that for my mental health, it wasn't the best profession to be in. And being able to leave my students and kind of transition into a completely new field. And I turned 40 this year. There were a lot of things going on. So the podcast was something, it's like, I always say, I don't have to do the podcast. I get to do the podcast.
Yay, that's really beautiful. Everything about that is beautiful. And thank you for being a teacher for the time that you were. Like those,
absolutely.
You were all my heroes. I have other friends who teach. I'm serious. If there's anybody who I was really like just astounded by and humbled by, it was teachers during that time. I can't tell you enough of how much that means to all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We would be completely remiss if we didn't talk about On the Line, because as much as I was really excited because of Drumline, Jackie, it was dark times for me, because when we were in high school, you see how like these fake posters, Jackie had Lance Bass posters all over her walls.
I did. He was my favorite.
And so we did On the Line as an episode for Lance's birthday week.
Super cool. I love Lance. I love all those guys, and you know, with Lance and Joey in particular, because it was their movie, we developed a real bond and a real special relationship. And to this day, those guys are solid to me. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, have always been. Yeah, I love them very much.
When Joey was on The Masked Singer, he sang 2 notes of a ballad, and I was like, that's Joey Fatone. And it was because of his ballad in On the Line that I had like burned on CDs. Yes. I'm like, I know exactly what he sounds like when he sings.
I know that frequency, ballad. I know that timbre, I know that scratch. Like I know that voice of like, wait, you can't sing, but you can?
Yeah.
Joey has like, I don't think Joey and Chris get enough like props for how well they sing.
Yeah.
And in sync. You know, I'm not going to say I wasn't on the Justin bandwagon at one point in time. I was more of a JC fan personally, because I grew up watching them on the Mickey Mouse Club. So I was very excited. But yeah, they all have very beautiful voices. I love what they're doing now. They're not letting Justin hold them back, in the sense that they are forming with all the other boy bands. It's just the whole 90s, 2000s nostalgia that's happening right now. It's quite fun for us. I mean,
I know.
And it feels very authentic. Like they are truly friends, and they are friends with like Nick Carter and things. And the things that they are doing just feel fun because of the energy they put into it.
That's exactly right. And that's how everything on that movie, those guys, like everything we did had a sense of fun. Like it wasn't just like the movie itself. Yeah, that was super fun. But like every time that we were going to stop shooting, like whatever little breaks we had, whether it was like one night or a couple days or whatever, like Lance had his team on everything. Like I would be in my trailer thinking like, all right, well, we got like 2 more hours to go, and what am I gonna do tonight? And be like, boom. I'm like, you know, like, hey, what's up? They're like, so Lance has dinner plan at this place, then we're gonna go to this arcade, and then we're gonna like take this like class in whatever while music plays, and like we're coloring books, and like doing like weird like little stuff little kids would do, and they're like, are you down? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
Like, he's a planner like you, Jackie.
He is.
Oh, he's a super planner. Like
there will be fun.
Yeah, he loves like events and hosting, like, and everything was like, and he would like to invite you, he would like to host you, he would like to do that. He's like a to-do person, you know. It's really fucking cool. And Joey was like, me and Joey were like kind of like the bad kids in the group. Like we'd go to the stuff and then we'd be like, hey, you want to duck out and go check out what's going on in that thing, and we'll come back here. And like Lance would be like, I see you boys, go have fun.
So, I mean, that was one of your first movies, and I believe it was one of Lance's. I mean, that was the first he was officially starring in. So do you think there was like camaraderie in the fact that this was kind of new to all of you guys from a movie perspective, or?
Yeah.
I mean, you're all performers.
We're all performers. I don't think we thought about that so much. There was a lot of pressure on Lance. Like there was a lot of heat, like on like, you've never held the screen before. You never held a plot down before. Like I felt bad at times because like, or maybe in hindsight, I feel like, oh, like poor guy, they put so much on his shoulders. But like he handled it like a champ, and he was like, he's so humble. Like the first thing he'd say, like, I don't know anything about acting. Like he's like, I don't know if that was good, and then he'd like walk off, and we were like, hey, that one wasn't that good, but like that one was pretty good. Like he, I don't like we didn't have much of a critical lens on any of it for ourselves. Like because of our age, because of like the chemistry was such that like, nobody, it was mostly about like who could make each other laugh more. Yeah. And yeah, it was all love. It was all cool. I think like I had just come from like having like conservatory training and like doing like there was like a seriousness for me that like I automatically bring to the craft that I didn't find in a whole lot around me while shooting that movie, which was really freeing for me. And because I had shot, I think it was like, I came from like, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
That was like the first movie. And that had a lot of heavy hitters on it. Like Bernie Mac and John Leguizamo and like, Danny DeVito and Bill Fichtner and like Lenny Clark and all these famous people with like decades of experience and comedians. And obviously Lawrence. So like there was a lot of weight to like in a lot of different ways, like whether it was weather problems like in Boston that we had while we were shooting that movie to egos and experience that were brought to the table between a lot of heavy hitters. But like that was my experience as far as film went. So like I went to the opposite. And I think Drumline was after that, right? I don't know if On the Line or
no, I think let me check. Let me tell you what you were.
I don't remember. I'm like, because I don't feel like when I went to On the Line, I don't feel like, oh, this is real new to me. Like maybe because I was young and I was like, I made a movie. Like this is
Drumline was after. I don't know if maybe you could have shooting. You could have shot it first.
No, we didn't shoot it first. Okay, so On the Line was the first one, I think, after. Yeah, so but it was like, it was night and day, those two film sets. And so I really felt loose. I felt free. I got to like 90% of what I said in On the Line. As a matter of fact, the writers got kind of ticked off. Two young guys the writers were like trying to send a message at one point because I remember them saying like, yeah, well, you're not De Niro. Like, I was like, damn. And I was like, what's their problem? And they're like, I think they just want you to at least do one take with the lyric, with the lines they wrote. And I was like, okay, all right, let me do one your way. Let me do my way. I was like, did we hear the one everyone laughed about? Yeah, that wasn't the one you wrote. That was the one I just made up.
You did have
I made that shit up.
You had so much energy in that role. I mean, obviously, when we went to see it, because we were obsessed with NSYNC, but like you were very memorable in that role. You had a lot of energy, and you were a scene stealer for sure in that movie. So they should have just left you be.
Well, they pretty much did. And one of the things, so after, the coolest things about that is that for 3 months, like I got to roll with them everywhere. Like they were like, gee, you're coming with us. And I was like, but we're not, that's not during the schedule of shooting. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're with us. And I was like, oh, and they're like, you're on the team. Like, we're playing like the NSYNC game for the stars, or the whatever it's called, the Las Vegas basketball charity tournament. Like, they're like, no, you're on a team. Like, you get a jersey, it says GQ, you're on the blue team, you're in the—
That's amazing.
Like, oh, they were like, you're coming to Vegas with us, like, you're doing this, you're coming to the club with us, you're doing this. I'm like, they're not gonna let me in. Look at me. And they're like, they're like, because I was used to like not being let into clubs the way I dressed back then, and the way you had to be dressed to get into a club. And they were like, I'm like, are they gonna let me in? And Joey just looks at me like, really, dude? Are they gonna let you in? He's like, do you know who you're going with? And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I'm like, but can I roll my spliffs in there? He's like, dude, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, and then I still didn't believe him, but then I just did whatever I wanted, wherever I wanted. And he was like, and I was like, this is amazing. And so
sorry.
Yeah, now we threw what?
I said he should have just said, we're motherfucking in sync. We can do whatever we want.
I think those were his exact words. Lance was a little more humble about it. Like, yeah, maybe you want to wear something different next time. No, he didn't say that. He was just like, gee, come on. Like they so for 3 months, like, I was writing like I was at the top of the world, because that's when they had just outsold the Beatles in terms of record sales. Like that, everywhere we went, there were young screaming girls everywhere. Like I don't even know how they got the word, because we didn't have social media back then. Like, so some people on his team would have to like make some calls to like certain places in those cities, and then I don't know how they put the word out. Like, but there was a
network. There was a network.
There was a network.
Magazines, and we would like have fan clubs, and then they would mail us stuff and tell us where things were.
Yeah. I mean, the same girls would show up. They would be there in every city, like standing there when we walked out of a restaurant. I'm like, that girl was in the other, and Joey's just like pats me on the back. He's like, yep, that's Jenny, that's Michelle. I was like, boy, all right, cool, this is dope. And so we were at a party in Vegas around the I don't know if it was like the Grammys. I think it was the Grammys, and there are all kinds of parties. And Joey's like, you got to come to this. I'm like, I got to bring 5 of my homies. And he's like, no girls? And I was like, no, it's just dudes. And he was like, man, you're killing me. And he's like, this party's so hard to get into. Like, if I put 5 dudes on there who like are no names, and like it's gonna, it's gonna be tough for me. I'm like, you gonna make this happen? He was like, yeah, I'll fucking make it happen. So we roll up to Sunset Strip to like, I don't know if it was like the Mint or like something. And all these people are like climbing over each other to get in. And I just like, I'm like 6 rows back, and I put my hand up, and this like badass chick who was like at the bouncer's line was like, GQ. And I was like, yeah. She's like, come on, you got 5? And I was like, yeah. And then everyone's like, make way. And like me and like my brother and my homies like all walk through it. Like, who are those guys? And so then we're inside, we're hanging with Janet Jackson and Jay-Z and Christina Aguilera. And they're all like not all, but like some of them are like, GQ, like I'm like, what is going on in my life right now? Janet Jackson was like, I want him to sit next to me. That's what she said. And she had her group of homegirls, like 4 deep, 5 deep, and they were all like so fine. And she and I thought I was gonna be hanging with them, and they're like, no, sit there. And Janet's like right here, baby. And so like I was sitting there, and I'm like, and I'm so dumb, I don't know what to say. I'm just like, how you doing? And they're like, good. And then like, cool. I'm like kind of dancing in my seat to the beat. And then I said like a few pleasantries with Janet, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna roll a spliff. And so like I roll a spliff like right in front of her and the people's at this table. And so I light it up, and immediately Janet's like, oh, like she can't be near cigarette smoke, but I didn't know that. And so her friend's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm like, what? I was like, Joey and them said I can smoke anywhere I want. And they're like, yeah, but she can't handle her voice. She can't handle cigarette smoke. And so I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll bounce instead of putting the thing out. I was like, oh, okay, I'll smoke it over there. I was like, peace, y'all. Janet's like, all right, bye. And I'm like, that was my experience for the rest of my life with Janet Jackson. Like, now I think about it, I'm like, I couldn't have just stubbed that out, sat there with Janet for as long as she wanted. Like, no, and then I'm walking with my spliff trying to find Joey and Christina Aguilera. Like, hey, GQ. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, who was that? My little brother's like, that's Christina fucking Aguilera, dude. I was like, should I go back and say hi? He's like, no, let's keep going.
Well, you know what? I think that's great because you didn't fall into the traps of like that whole facade of Hollywood and they're still regular people and they need to be humbled every now and again.
It was a Hugh Hefner party and all the NSYNC guys were there and Britney was there and Britney and Justin were in the middle of a fight. And this is right before they broke up, one of the major times they broke up or maybe the major time, I don't remember. But Justin, who always was super cool. And when he came to visit on the set, connected with me and has shown nothing but love for me. And then when I brought my 13-year-old niece in Chicago to their show in Soldier Field, he walked down the apron of the stage, saw me in the middle of singing one of their hits and was like, what's up, G? And like in the middle of the concert, and every little teenage girl around turned to look at like who he was talking to. And my little cousin was just beaming like, oh my God. And so when I saw him later in LA at this part, I went in the bathroom and he's in there with his uncle, and his uncle was really sweet. He was totally wasted and he was talking to Justin and he left and Justin was like, yo, G, he's like, dude, I saw a cut of the movie last night. He's like, you are the real thing. He's like, you're a major star. He's like, every scene, he's like, you just glow, you took it and I see it. And I just want you to know, I totally see you. I just want to give you props. I was like, I get goosebumps when sometimes I tear up about that because like that he's one of the glowiest creatures in the world. Like, I love that dude. I'm like, I got so much love for him. And also I see his light. Like I've always seen his light. And for him to mirror that back to me and to say anything like that was one of the best, compliments I could have ever received, especially at a young time in my life when I could be shaped so easily by some stuff like that. So
yeah, because
that's awesome.
Yeah, he didn't have to, and he did. So
yeah,
that was really nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you did deserve it though,
Yes.
So that's one point, but thank you so much for just being so open with your stories and really cool. It feels like we've been friends with you forever, just talking.
Yeah, you guys got that vibe. I knew when I saw your Instagram, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely want to talk to these people.
That's awesome. I'm glad we put that out.
Yeah, no, it's so cool that what you do. And even just the description, it's like I said, it's a time capsule, and the fact that you both went through that and something you said about your bond with each other and like your growth, and that it can be challenging, and that it always is, it always should be, right? Like the people that we love and that people that we choose to love as family for the rest of our lives, like if it doesn't become challenging at points, like it probably isn't going deeper. And so I got a lot of respect for that and what you said about each other. And then the fact that you have this endeavor together in this podcast, like what a cool symbol and manifestation of your growth. And the fact that you're sharing it with the world so we can all bear witness to that is really beautiful. And it's just like it's a testament to truth. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I think one of the hardest things is that we didn't fall into fear, because you start a business with a friend, you do anything, a project like this, you could go into fear and worry that your friendship can't withstand the challenges that might be down the road in doing it. And I think we just said, you know what, I think our bond is strong enough to whatever comes our way, we'll be able to figure it out. So
yeah,
that is awesome. That's awesome. I read something this morning about fear and danger and worrying, and it was something to the point of like, it's not bravery that overcomes that it's love that overcomes that, because love doesn't deny that the danger is there. It only allows you to feel differently about it, like to feel comfortable around it, to not be scared by it. If you try and like push things away or repress something that you think is there, like it's also going to manifest in worry. Like if you and if you look at it and you go, that's something, a lot of people have said it in different ways, but that like, the opposite of fear is not bravery, it's love, right?
100%. And never thought about it in that way, but it's true. Because of your love, it gives you the bravery to push past it. So
Yeah. Amen. Cool.
well, thank you so much. We are
Yeah.
so excited that we got this opportunity. We hope you stay in touch.
Yes.
This
Will do.
is really
too.
great sharing your passion with us. We're very thankful for that.
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate it.
And share your social handles with everyone so that they can follow you and your project with your brothers.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, cool. So GQ as opposed to the magazine and Jabba Music Party and Q Brothers 1, the letter Q Brothers and number 1. That's it. All those three is fine.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
And thank you for your time, for your love, and for what you do. And,
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. We really appreciate it, honestly.
Yeah, I look forward to hanging with you all in person when we can. When we
Absolutely.
cross paths now that we
Yeah.
can.
And as always, if you want to ask GQ any questions, you have any favorite parts of this episode, hit us up on our social handles at No More Late Fees on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube.